This is Matt Lambert, and this is the Fort Worth Fly Fishers podcast. Fort Worth Fly Fishers is a fly fishing club in Fort Worth, Texas, dedicated to the sport of fly fishing and open to anyone interested in fly fishing activities. Fort Worth Fly Fishers sponsors fishing experiences in the Dallas-Fort Worth region, education about fly fishing, and conservation activities to help ensure fly fishing activities and locations are available to members and the community. Fort Worth Fly Fishers is a nonprofit organized under IRS Section 501c3. Welcome to today's podcast with Dr. Cynthia Fox Holt with Texas Parks and Wildlife Department to talk about local North Texas fishing waters, fish stocking programs, and conservation and habitat management. Dr. Fox Holt is a fisheries biologist with the Inland Fisheries Division of the Dallas-Fort Worth District. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Let us know a little bit about yourself, where you're from, your education, and so on, and what brought you to Texas.
So I am a transplant from the state of Tennessee, if your listeners can't tell by the accent. I was born and raised near Del Hollow Lake. Once upon a time, held the world record smallmouth bass. I actually got my start in fisheries because I wanted to study sharks. As an 11-year-old child in northern central Tennessee, I wanted to study sharks. And nobody told me no. So I went through undergrad going with that. And when I got to my master's, I realized that I needed to make a switch to freshwater. Sharks was a pretty inundated field. So I switched to freshwater and haven't looked back since.
Well, there's not a lot of sharks in Tennessee.
Not except for the aquarium, yes.
That's right. So what got you interested in inland fisheries?
Basically, it's what was available for my master's degree. My boss will laugh at this, but my favorite freshwater fish is the yellow bass, the red-headed stepchild of the Moroni family. It only gets about, 6-8 inches. Maximum size is about a pound. But it is the fish that I studied for my master's research at Nicholls State University in Thibodaux, Louisiana. And I still love that little fish, that little fighter that it is. It'll take any bait you throw at it. Although, again, my boss hates it. He says yellow bass are the bane of his existence. And then after that, I was fortunate enough to be accepted to a PhD program at Mississippi State University, studying largemouth bass on the island of Puerto Rico.
Well, that's exciting.
It's kind of weird that I went all the way down there to study the most common North American fish.
You wouldn't think a lot of largemouth bass in Puerto Rico.
Nope. They were imported there by the Puerto Rico Department of Natural and Environmental Resources because they were trying to develop a major sport fishery to bring tourism to the island.
So how does a Tennessee native get to Texas? Although if you ask Davy Crockett, it's easy to understand.
I didn't get here the way he did. No, while I was in graduate school, I was looking for jobs, getting close to finishing, and Texas had some openings. Specifically, they were looking for an urban fisheries biologist, and all of my work had been on small impoundments at that point. So I said, why not give it a shot? And came down here and interviewed, and again, was fortunate enough to get the job.
When was that?
That was August of 2016, so I will have been here 10 years this August.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So what is your role with Texas Parks and Wildlife Department actually involved at this point?
So my job primarily is the public ponds. We name them community fishing lakes. And that definition indicates that it's any public water body that is below 75 acres that is located within a public park. Now that's statewide, but within my district, those water bodies are my primary responsibility. And so my job is to assess them and partner with cities and vendors and other organizations to just basically create better fishing for as many of our constituents as we can.
Okay. How has your role changed over time?
Not very much at all, luckily. Our office, we have a 5-person crew. So we have our district supervisor, the 2 assistant biologists, which is myself and my colleague. And then we also have 2 technicians. don't let the titles fool you. They know just as much about fisheries management as the biologists do, because they've been in it just as long as we have. But I've focused on the small urban impoundments for the entire time that I've been here. And my colleague Tom Hungerford works primarily on the reservoirs. And we work with each other. So when reservoirs have to be sampled, I help with that. When small impoundments have to be sampled, he helps with that. He and my boss actually went out and sampled one for me today.
Great, great. Well, tell us about the range of waters you help manage in North Texas, the city ponds, the small impoundments that you're talking about.
So I focus on any freshwater public system. So that ranges from your small tenth of an acre, up to 100-acre ponds that are in parks. We deal with the rivers and streams as well. Not as much in this office because we do have a rivers and streams team that's down in San Marcos, but we help them find the locations where maybe they could help put in sites for kayak launches and paddle boards and things like that. And then of course the major reservoirs. We have in my district alone, which is Dallas, Denton, Tarrant, and Rockwall counties, so 4 counties, smallest district in the state. We have 9 major reservoirs. We have 2 what we consider small impoundments, which are reservoirs that are less than like 1,000 acres. I'm sorry, actually, we have 3 of those. And then the community fishing lakes, which are the ponds that are less than 75 acres. And the last time I counted, I had over 250 of those.
Wow.
That I know about.
Wow.
I don't get to all of them at any given time. I do have to sort of create a tiered level of, okay, this is what I can do at these size water bodies. This is what I can do at these size water bodies. And then I work with the cities, the controlling authorities, to try to give them suggestions of ways that they could improve fishing in their park ponds.
So in other words, nobody should ever complain about not having a place to fish.
No, they should not. They should not. If they can't go fishing in Texas, in DFW, they're just not looking.
Great. Well, what are the newest waters that have been added?
So Lake Bodark is actually up in our Denison district. That's the latest major reservoir water body that's been developed. But right here in Dallas-Fort Worth, Haltom City just built a brand new pond from the ground down in North Park, which is just off of Highway 121. It is a 4-acre small impoundment park pond, and they built it in 2025. It filled up kind of in February of 2025, but then they had some structural issues, a few leaks, and some issues with their well, so they are correcting those this year, and TPWD is working with them. We've put in tons of habitat. The city, the contractor that did that pond, they took all of my advice and ran with it. I think they must build ponds for a living, because they were using concrete culverts, big trees, large, tree logs. I asked for 6 gravel spawning beds. They gave me 13. We planted aquatic vegetation on the shoreline. Didn't take very well because of the loss of the water, but we're going to plant there again this year. And hopefully next year, once the water level settles and the vegetation gets established, then we'll start stocking sunfish and Lone Star bass into that pond.
Great. Well, that'll be an exciting place to go, and very,
Yes.
very close for a lot of our members.
Yes, sir.
Of the waters that you manage, how accessible are they? Are they more for wading, for shore fishing, for kayaking, or paddleboards, or what kinds of access are there?
It really varies by city and location. So some cities allow paddlecraft on their water bodies. Rockwall actually allows paddlecraft on a couple of their water bodies, like Phelps Lake, that is far east Rockwall. The city of Fort Worth allows paddling on water bodies like Northwest Community Park. It's a brand new park that they built. The pond has been there for a while, but the park is relatively new. It's just off of 820 in West Fort Worth. But then you have other water bodies like Greenbrier Park in Fort Worth that doesn't allow any type of paddle craft. So because of its smaller size, central location, and the type of program that's housed in it, because it's a neighborhood fishing pond. So access really depends on where you want to go. DFW offers completely open, no trees, perfect shoreline access for any type of angling. But the highway's right there. But then you also have some where, you're 10 minutes from downtown Dallas, but you're in an oasis of greenery and woods and trees, and you can't hear the highway. You can barely hear the planes. And that's over in Lancaster. So we really can offer everything. We just need to know what you're looking for.
When we talk about these various bodies of water, what are they range in terms of depth?
So that, again, is dependent. The older ones are probably going to be more shallow because they've received more sedimentation. The city of Dallas and the city of Grapevine both are currently working on dredging some of their ponds. Highland Park's doing a little bit of dredging. They just completed a project in Exall Lake, and they're going to do another one of their ponds, Connor Lake, in 2027. So we're working with them on that, to make sure that the fish and mussels and turtles and birds and, everybody's safe and well taken care of. And then we will work with the city to restock once the dredging and the habitat enhancements are complete. But on average, we typically try to have ponds that range from, max depth of about 12 feet and then an average of 4 to 6 feet. The biggest thing that we work on with cities is so that they have enough of a slope right near shore, so that, which is always kind of it's a safety concern for people. They're worried about their children falling in the pond and not being able to get out. But if you don't have a steeper drop off near your shoreline, then you're going to fight vegetation constantly. So it's always sort of I understand you're worried about safety, but unless you want to have to pay thousands of dollars every year to get your vegetation cleaned out, we need to find a middle ground here somewhere. And so I didn't realize when I got into fisheries how much people would be involved.
Well, they're often the bane of fishing.
They can be. Although I will say that wind and cormorants are a greater problem than people.
Well, I understand that, having spent a lot of time out in West Texas. Mm-hmm. Wind and cormorants are really problematic out there. Mostly the wind.
Yes.
I remember a time out there I was in my office watching a person in the city of Lubbock, and there's a park there called Maxie Park. Mm-hmm. And if you've ever been to West Texas, you'll know that 30, 40 mile an hour winds, huge dust storms are really not unusual at all.
Correct.
So I was looking out my window at the lake across the street from my office and saw a guy who thought wind, water, he must not have been from there, but wind and water, this looks great for a sailboard.
Oh my goodness.
So I watched him, and he probably took about 20 to 30 minutes to get his sailboard down to the lake because, really it didn't want to go with him. The wind wanted to take it everywhere else.
Yep.
So he finally got it down in the water and tried to get up on the sailboard. And every time he pulled the sail up, it threw him about 30 feet into the lake.
Oh, geez.
And if you know anything about the playa lakes in West Texas is a major wintering area for Canadian geese. And so they are not really known as clean birds.
No, they are not.
So he got thrown into the water. He did that about 4 or 5 times and finally realized this is not going to be a good experience today.
It's not worth the brain-eating amoeba to try to sail on this.
That's right. Pond. So he finally decided to bag it in and took another 20, 30 minutes to get his paddle or his sailboard back up to his truck, and then decided another day would probably be better. What about access to these various lakes? Are most of them open and free to the public, or are there actually charges that people would have to pay to use them?
So, for Texas Parks and Wildlife to work on a water body, for inland fisheries to work on a water body, it has to be open to the public. We are a publicly funded agency from the sale of hunting and fishing licenses, which I will discuss a little bit later. And so we can't work on a water body where a licensed angler is not allowed to go and fish. And so we have to stick to that. But as far as community fishing lakes, public parks, the only ones that I know of that require a fee are the ones that are located within state parks. You have to pay the state park entrance fee. But if it's just a city park, then those are free and open to anyone from the state of Texas. You can fish there as long as you need a license, as long as it's not free fishing day or you're 16 years old or younger. Those anglers, of course, don't need a fishing license.
I understand. I just made a reservation for Palo Pinto State Park and had to go through and make that reservation, and
Yes.
there was a fee. Now, fortunately, I'm a little bit long in the tooth, so I have a senior discount pass.
There you go.
But still, it's not very expensive. It was only $7 a person per day, and that's a bargain for fishing.
Yes. Yes. In all honesty, the $30 to $35 for the fishing license is a bargain for fishing. I mean, where else can you go and spend $30 and have access to food for an entire year?
Exactly. And that's one of the beautiful things of living in Texas.
Yes.
Yeah. What kind of fish are in these various impoundments?
Depends, again, everything depends on where it's located, but the most common species that you're going to find are going to be catfish, usually channel, sunfish, usually bluegill, long ear, red ear, green sunfish from time to time, maybe some warmouth, and then of course largemouth bass. You're not typically going to see smallmouth bass because they don't do well in small water. They don't do well in hot water. And most of these ponds, they're 5, 6, 12 feet deep. They get warm in the Texas summer. So you're not going to see smallmouth bass there. You will occasionally find a blue or flathead. We actually caught a 14-inch white bass out of a community park pond a couple of years ago because someone had caught it and bucket stocked it into their community park pond, hoping to create a sand bass fishery in that pond, and it was completely unsuccessful. And when we surveyed and we caught that fish, we actually ended up pulling it out because it didn't need to be there. It was competing with largemouth bass for resources and space, and it was just going to end up dying.
How do people find out about what's in these various ponds and what fish are the best ways to catch them?
The fishing forums always, typically have a lot of that information. The fishing forums are not run by Texas Parks and Wildlife, but, we have a few thousand employees in inland fisheries. There are hundreds of thousands of anglers in Texas. So they have their, finger on the pulse of fishing throughout Texas. I would never claim to know more than they know about how to fish and where to fish. But if you are new or unsure, Texas Parks and Wildlife has a ton of resources available online. You can call your local district offices. All the phone numbers are listed on our website, which I will make sure to give you to put in the notes for this. One of the documents that we do have that I'm really excited about, we just updated it a few years ago. It's the document called Fishing Around Dallas-Fort Worth. There are 2 out there. There's another one that's called Easy Access Fishing Spots. And that one's a really good one, but it was sort of the precursor to the Fishing Around Dallas-Fort Worth. And that one for us has 37 locations listed in it. It's got a map with each location having a number. You find that number on the list. It'll tell you the name of the park, the physical address, and what species you can anticipate catching at that location. And every site on that document has been vetted by Parks and Wildlife biologists. We've either fished it hook and line ourselves, or we've surveyed it and talked to anglers who were fishing there. So we know that it's a good spot for anglers of all skill levels. So your novice anglers who have no idea what they're doing, all the way up to the skilled fly fishermen, professional anglers. We get a few professional anglers that hit up some of our ponds from time to time just because they don't want to take out the boat, but they want to run a line. And it's a wonderful, wonderful document, and we update it about every 5 to 10 years. So it's always going to be, the newest and greatest locations that we have.
Okay. What's your favorite place to fish among the various waters you manage?
Oh, that's tough.
A couple of them.
Okay, I can do two. So my favorite one in Dallas County is Cliff Park. And before everybody rolls their eyes and questions, Cliff Park, it's a wonderful spot to fish. Yes, parking's a little limited on it, but the diversity in that pond is outrageous. And not just of fish, but aquatic vegetation. So aquatic habitat. There's at least 6 to 10 different species of native aquatic vegetation in that pond. So you can go there, you can catch beautiful sunfish all day long. You can catch, a 2, 3, maybe even a 5-pound largemouth bass in there. You can catch drum, freshwater drum. You can catch common carp, smallmouth buffalo, channel catfish, hybrid channel and blue catfish. We've stocked some sharelunker offspring. We've also stocked some retired sharelunker brood fish into that pond. So it's just a wonderful fishing experience. It's right in the middle of the city, but it's surrounded by green grass that's well maintained. It's one of my favorite places to go. The other one that's in Fort Worth, a little bit closer to my home, is Fosdick Lake or Oakland Park. The name kind of changes depending on who's in office. But it was just recently dredged, and it has some of the prettiest red ear sunfish and copper-nosed bluegill that you've ever seen in your life. Like they're just absolutely beautiful. And I think after the work that the city of Fort Worth did to increase the depth of the pond, we'll see a really significant improvement in that fishery, because it did kind of crash a little bit a few years ago. But I think now it's going to come back. We're stocking it. We're working with the city. We have the new community fishing lake regulation that limits harvest of adult bass and sunfish in general, because you used to be able to harvest as many fish out of a 5-acre pond as you could Lake Ray Hubbard. The only caveat was catfish. You were allowed 5 catfish as opposed to the statewide regulation from Lake Ray Hubbard. So that meant unlimited sunfish, 5 largemouth bass over 14 inches, 5 catfish, no length limit, 5 white bass, 25 white bass, 25 crappie. You'd wipe out a pond in a weekend. One angler could do it. So we just recently, a few years ago, changed that regulation to where you're only allowed 5 fish. But got off track. Favorite locations. My third favorite location is actually in Mansfield, which is just a quick 10-minute drive from my house. I live in Arlington. And it's the Oliver Nature Center. There's 2 ponds there. There's one. It's really small. It's great for rainbow trout. But then they have a slightly larger one that's in the back of the park that has really nice channel catfish in it. Unfortunately, neither of those ponds are good locations for fly fishing because it's in a park that's got a lot of trees in it. And really, I don't like to go a lot of places where fly fishing would be really simple because I like the trees. You can't see me, but I am fair-skinned. The sun scolds me like a redheaded stepchild on a daily basis. So I like to fish where I can have shade.
Well, that shouldn't be really a problem for fly fishermen, because if you're worth your salt at all, you should be used to trees and brush and heavy grass and closed-in spaces, because that's where some of the best fly fishing is.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I was going to try to keep this a secret until later, but as you and I spoke before, I have never fly fished. I've tried casting just on dry ground. but I've never actually fly fished.
Well, we can fix that. We can fix that because, especially with our club, we offer a lot of casting lessons.
Mm-hmm.
So, from the people who have never picked up a fly rod before to those that are going for gold medal status. So, come out, let us teach you how to fly fish. You'll love it because, again, as my tagline is that fly fishing happens in beautiful places.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and so again, this is really important because we do have a program through our club, which is called Fish Camp.
Okay.
And so we break up the Fort Worth area into 4 quadrants: northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest.
Okay.
Where we arrange outings monthly for people who live in those areas, because Fort Worth area is a big area. We have, I live in Granbury, and I'm a member of the club, so that's way far southwest.
Mm-hmm.
We have people up in Palo Pinto area, all of that stuff, all over that are members of the club. So we try to arrange outings that people in those quadrants can go to on a monthly basis. And so it's important. And I think this brochure will help a lot to select some of those places where people can fish.
Yes.
And given that there's 200 some odd impoundments in this area, there shouldn't be a question every month where we can go fish.
Correct.
Yeah.
But if you need advice, just call me.
We will. So let's talk a little bit about the stocking programs.
Okay.
Because I know Texas Parks and Wildlife Department does a lot of stocking in all of these local impoundments and throughout the state. Their stocking programs are really kind of legendary. And so tell me about some of the stocking programs that you're involved in.
Okay. Well, I want to start with, I'm sure you guys have seen on social media, like the 6 pictures of what the public thinks my career does, what my mom thinks my job is, what my friends think it is, and then what it actually is. It's very similar with people when it comes to stocking fish. I probably get calls once a week. Yeah, we want to get some fish stocked in our pond. Like, people have been out, there's no fish in there. Yes, there is. There are fish in the potholes on I-35. Okay, there are fish everywhere. It's just a matter of, do they have the habitat that they need? And a lot of people think if we're not stocking, we're not doing our job. And stocking, while very important, is a very tiny part of what we do. So, but the specific programs that we have, the big one is, of course, Lone Star Bass, which is from Sherlunker offspring. Those are the 2nd generation Sherlunker offspring. Those go into major reservoirs as well as small ponds, small impoundments, pretty much anywhere that we think that the trophy genetics, the superior genetics, will do well, because the habitat and the forage are all on point and will provide that fish with everything that it needs to grow to its largest size possible in that water body. So we're not expecting 12-pound fish to come out of a 4-acre pond, but if we can get a 4-pound fish, that sounds great. We have our neighborhood fishing program, which you guys have probably seen that everywhere, Real Fishing Close to Home. That's a program where we partner with cities with a 75, 25, 80, 20 coverage, for a cost sharing program. And we stock catfish in the warm months, so April through October, except in the month of August when it's too hot to be handling fish. And then we stock rainbow trout November into March. So that's sort of our put and take fishery. Then we have hybrid striped bass stockings that occur throughout a lot of reservoirs in the state. We'll collect the striped bass and the white bass at various locations, take them to the hatcheries, spawn them, get those hybrids, and then stock them either as fry or fingerlings into a variety of water bodies. We have a very smallmouth bass stocking program. Oh, goodness. I know I'm missing something.
What's the survival rate on these stocked fish?
So what we've seen historically has been anywhere from 10 to 25%. So I'll go with largemouth bass because that's the one that I'm the most confident in. Largemouth bass, they typically will get to 8 to 10. We stock them as fingerlings, so they're 1 to 2 inches. within the first year, they will reach 8 to 10 inches. And then it usually takes them between 2 and 3 years to reach the state length limit of 14 inches. Some reservoirs, of course, don't have that one, but that specific regulation they'll have, or non-standard exceptions to the statewide reg, but it takes them about 2 to 3 years to reach that harvestable size. Hybrid striped bass, on the other hand, it'll take more like 3 years to reach that, 3 to 4 years to reach that 18-inch minimum length limit that we have for those.
What stocking programs are you involved in right now?
So we just wrapped up our Lone Star Bass stocking last week, and our hybrid striped bass stocking program will start up in late May or June. And then, of course, the neighborhood fishing program goes essentially year-round, every 2 weeks.
Where can you find the stocking schedules?
We typically don't have schedules posted for anything except rainbow trout. However, every district has a Facebook page, and most of us will post the stocking information on those pages. Our page specifically, we posted the master schedule for our neighborhood fishing locations and dates. But then for when we're stocking fingerlings aren't catchable sized fish. So we'll put it, the next day. So if we do it on Tuesday, we'll put a post about it on Wednesday. If we happen to get retired brooders, which are usually anywhere from 12 to 20 inches, catfish or bass, we will, let people know the day that it's happening. Like, hey, we stocked 20 retired brooders from from Athens Freshwater Fisheries Center into Bachman Lake today. Which we actually did that last year.
Cool.
Stocked a few of those retired breeders. They were some beautiful looking fish.
Cool. Let's switch gears and talk a little bit about your conservation programs. Because I know one of the things our club does is it gets involved in conservation, and it's a part of our mission.
Yes, sir.
So give me your history of conservation and habitat restoration projects in North Texas.
So within my district, the majority of the restoration has been planting aquatic vegetation that usually gets lost either from flooding or extensive treatment, not using the right chemicals, over-treating, loss of habitat, loss of water, stuff like that. And we've actually worked with the Fort Worth fly fishers to install some crappie condo bamboo structures into Lake Arlington a few years ago. That was a really fun project. It was part of a project with a University of Texas at Arlington graduate student. She also tried to put out some floating vegetation mats. Those weren't very successful, unfortunately, but the crappie condos are still in place and still doing quite well with crappie and bass catch rates. We fish them ourselves, actually, sometimes. But those it's not a secret. Those coordinates are posted on the Lake Arlington website that both the city has up and Parks and Wildlife. So those are not hidden locations. I'm not giving away secrets. But the primary thing, as I said, I get a lot of phone calls from people that want us to stock fish. And for me specifically, I won't stock fish until I've assessed the fish community. And 9 times out of 10, the community's fine. It's just habitat limited. There's either limited structural habitat, limited spawning availability, it's too shallow, or something of that nature. So then we get together with the partners, with the controlling authorities, and we say, okay, we have several internal grants that can be applied for. Either we apply or you all apply. And then there are also external grants that can be applied for that we can put towards doing some habitat enhancement and conservation work in this system. And they've been extremely successful. The North Park at Haltom City received some CLP funding. We just did a really big project at Moore Road Park in Capel that received Habitat and Angler Access grant money, as well as conservation license plate money, which is an internal grant. We've used it to buy aeration systems, rock, pea gravel, riprap, boulders. We've used it to supply dock lighting, build docks, kayak launches, providing signs, outreach materials, and we do. It's really probably the biggest part of our job. Again, and I say that because everyone thinks if we're not stocking, we're not doing our job, but we spend a lot of time doing habitat assessments. I do a lot with Eagle Scouts. We've got 2 Eagle Scout projects coming up in Highland Park, and we're going to be doing some vegetation planting and restoration in Generations Park coming up here in a few weeks. Some of your fellow club members have already volunteered the club to help us plant said vegetation because for those of you not aware, Generations Park at Boys Ranch in Bedford, formerly known as Bedford Boys Ranch Park, experienced a total lost fish kill last summer. It was a pretty heavy dose of chlorine got into the pond. We are pretty confident that it didn't come from the aquatic center that's right there on property because the chlorine concentrations were higher away from the aquatic center than they were near the aquatic center. So we're pretty confident that it didn't come from there. Not sure where it came from because unfortunately even our irrigation systems are running chlorinated tap water now. So fish are getting used to chlorine in systems. But this was a massive, massive dose of chlorine, like just, almost pool water kind of. And everything was lost. Crawfish or crayfish, if you're sciencey, were crawling out of, like they were crawling over each other to get out of the pond. It was that bad. And that pond also experiences some pretty significant issues with Canada geese and, Muscovy ducks, mallards, just a big population of waterfowl there. And so we're going to plant pickerelweed and water willow along the edges and in the channel to help absorb a lot of that excess nutrient and hopefully any runoff pollution that comes into the pond before it gets to the main lake of the pond. And then we're also going to put in some eelgrass. Apparently it's the closest thing to hydrilla as far as good for fishermen and good for bass that we can get that's native, that won't tangle up lines too bad. So we're going to be doing that later this summer. We've also got some planting going on at North Park in Haltom City, Highland Park. We're doing a lot of vegetation work.
Okay. Well, that sounds great. How's the funding for everything?
Well, as far as I know, we're good to go. That's funding is quite a bit above my pay grade. But I'm still employed. So the main thing that I can say is a lot of people are not aware of how Texas Parks and Wildlife is funded. So I kind of want to quash that during this podcast. Number one, probably 70 to 75% of Inland Fisheries funding, Texas Parks and Wildlife's funding, comes from the purchase of hunting and fishing licenses. Bar none. We're not school taxes. We're not property taxes. None of that. The only tax money that we get is federal money through the Sport Fish Restoration Program. And that's taxes on recreational equipment, boat fuel, actual boats, things like that. And all of that money goes into a pot with the U.S. Treasurer, and then it gets divvied out to the states based on a lot of things, but it does include the amount of water that you have, the amount of green space that you have, and then the number of licensed anglers. So in 2022, let me make sure I have this number correct. In 2022, TPWD received.
Well, and that's okay.
Yeah. We received the highest, the largest portion of the total nationwide amount, which the total nationwide amount was $425.1 million, and we received, I want to say, 7 or 8% of that.
Great. Well, so in other words, everybody should buy super combo licenses.
Yes, I would love it. Although I'm perfectly happy if they just buy a freshwater fishing license.
Okay.
I'm perfectly happy with that. And get your conservation license plates too. That link to that will be in the show notes. Those license plates are probably the best way that individuals who don't necessarily like to fish, don't want to spend money on a fishing license, if they get a conservation license plate, the plate is $30 a year. $22 of that 30 goes right back to Parks and Wildlife for whatever division the license plate is from. So the bass goes to Inland Fisheries, the bluebonnets goes to state parks, all kinds. So please, 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 if you don't want to buy a fishing license or a hunting license, buy a conservation license plate.
And that's for everyone, whether you fish or not.
Yes. My husband, who is not an outdoorsman at all, has one on his car.
I wonder why.
I'd have made him. I'd have bought it. But, my car too.
Well, we really have talked about a lot of things today. And this has been great. I understand a lot more about what you do, the programs that are available in Texas to help fishermen and just basically communities in general to improve their public spaces, to make outdoor recreation successful and enjoyable for everyone. And I think that's what's really important for all of us to understand.
Yes, sir.
Anything else you can think of at this point that we haven't talked about, you think you want people to know about what you do, the services that Texas Parks and Wildlife Department provides, and how it enhances fishing in Texas for all of us?
Couple things. Number one, I've sort of already mentioned this, but I really want to hammer it home that, if we're not stocking, it doesn't mean we're not working. Like we are working all the time to try to make fishing better in Texas. And another thing that I want people to understand, and fishing sort of has this, it gets sort of put into this box of like, well, if you're fishing for food. And Texas Parks and Wildlife is not in the business of selling food. We are trying to promote and advertise and enhance recreational opportunities. So whether that be fishing, paddleboarding, nature hikes, trails, that's what we're trying to promote. We want people to get outdoors. And me specifically, I want people to go fishing. My favorite thing to see every day is to watch a child or an adult who has never been fishing to go fishing for that first time and catch that first fish. That is the best experience in the world, to know that I helped them get that memory, to have that moment. That's the absolute best thing. And I want to hear about it from anybody that's willing to tell me. Like, please email me, call the office, let us know. If you think that the water body in your neighborhood or near the community center where you go visit or anything like that, if you think that it's something that we need to put some attention to, please contact our Facebook page, email our district offices directly, reach out. Because as I mentioned, I have 250 ponds that I know about. There's probably just as many that I've never seen, never heard about, don't know anything about. So I don't know that there is a great opportunity sitting right there. They just need a little bit of guidance. So please reach out to us. Use us as a resource, because we can come and assess ponds. We can do fisheries assessments, habitat assessments, all for free, because that's our job. As long as people are buying fishing licenses, we're going to be here.
Well, we need to keep buying licenses, especially those super combos.
Yes.
And buy our license plates.
Yes.
Okay. And I want to say, and I want to extend you an invitation. We're going to get you out and teach you to fly fish.
Yes.
And get you to catch that first fish on a fly rod.
I love it.
And eventually get you to tie your own flies, because that completes the circle.
I'm doing that.
All right. You're halfway there.
I'm there. Okay.
Yeah. Because once you catch a fish on a fly you've tied, that is the circle.
Okay.
That completes the circle. So, and we want to get you to come to our club meeting and learn about more about what we do and the kinds of opportunities that we provide. So we're going to have you there to do this. I want to kind of wrap up
by just thanking you today. This has been so informative and so helpful, and you're a great speaker.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I just want to say that I've enjoyed our podcast today and really learned a lot. And in closing, I want to thank everyone for joining us. And if you like the podcast, be sure to subscribe. If you're interested in joining our club or any of our club activities, check us out at fortworthflyfishers.org. That's all one word, fortworthflyfishers.org. Or try one of our meetings the first Tuesday of each month at the University of North Texas Health Sciences Center in Fort Worth. Just go to our website and our page, and it will tell you how to get to the meeting. Stay tuned for our next podcast. Remember, Fort Worth Fly Fishers is a 501c3 organization responsible for all content provided.
Thank you.
Thank you. Keep fishing, and remember, fly fishing happens in beautiful places.